weird and disastrous ways. And no character in the show is a greater manifestation than weird and disastrous than Seajack 60, played by Joseph Morgan. For you, particularly as a seasoned actor, but also as a director and kind of coming into this role, what for the audience do you feel Seajack 60 represents?
I think initially it's the innocence. I think that he represents a completely innocent view on the world, on New London. And, he just, from the beginning, we're experiencing these things. Now, he's not a stranger to New London, but he's a stranger to these feelings and to being able to question how the society is run and how that whole world works.
You gotta ask yourself, if this place is so perfect, why is it upside down? Let's stare. Stare back.
So I think we're coming at it from the point of view of someone who has just realized that the world he's living in is completely fucked up and he is at the bottom of it. And so are all of the people that he cares about. And that has a huge emotional weight for him. And I think that, I'm hoping that is what will resonate with audiences and what will connect them to Seajack 60.
Which I think is pretty amazing, right? Because there's this incredible scene at the Pleasure Bomb where Seajack 60 is like, his hand starts moving and he starts questioning this idea of why do they do that? Right. And why don't we do that? And it's this slow journey that's kind of happening and kind of an awakening that this character is going through.
From the moment he starts, and I think that moment you brought up in the Pleasure Bomb, once he sees the violence and he makes the fist, he realizes, I need that guy, John. He's the key to all of this. And then there comes a point where during the finale, near the very beginning, when he realizes we don't need this guy anymore. Like, we're doing this with or without him, this revolution. But then, like I say, it's a fast track because as this violence takes place and we start, brutally murdering all the inhabitants of New London, Seajack looks around and goes, oh, wait a minute, this isn't what I wanted. This isn't creating the freedom that I thought it would. And so then he ends up, putting himself in harm's way to try and protect some of the residents there and realizing that wasn't the key to their freedom. That isn't them being truly free. And so, yeah, it's he's a revolutionary and then immediately has to flip that on his head because these emotions, which he's still processing, which he's still learning to understand, suddenly guide him to realize that this is wrong. The thing that he's been driving towards is wrong when witnessing it.
Why are we like this?
Well, it seems that this all kind of happens in this moment in the director's office with Bernard, where they're, what is happening in this? Like, you see him come in, you see him realize that this was the guy who had been there when his friend died. And there's almost something that clicks in his head. And it seems like empathy, but I can't necessarily tell because he's still trying to figure out what all of these emotions mean.
That's actually my favorite scene I did in the whole show. And I do feel like that's the turning point for Seajack that was needed, that's the moment. And I think it's because Bernard brings up his friend, Seajack 57, who died in the beginning. And then when faced with death, Bernard is just so sort of vulnerable and human. Mm-hmm. And that reminds Seajack 60 of his friend. And he realizes that we're all more alike than we thought, and that we are all children in this world, who are just trying to play our part that we've been given. And we're all as kind of fucking scared as each other, And I think in recognizing that humanity and that vulnerability in Bernard, that's the turning point for him, where he realizes this is wrong what we're doing. It's not like these are alphas and betas are the oppressors who have chosen this way and are very aware of how they just as programmed as the rest of us,
I mean, does this because there's a certain point where I don't think the audience is necessarily privy to what Mustafa has now called CJAC 60 in to do. Like, I feel like this goes into him going, yes, I'll do it. I'll do whatever it takes to make this stop. But what does Joseph Morgan look like when he reads, oh, I have to choke myself to death? Okay, well, cool.
I thought that was the greatest thing ever. That was the ending I was hoping for. Yeah, because, you know, like I'm playing these two characters and everything's driving towards an end. So I thought, and I'll be honest with you, I'm rooting for CJAC more than Elliot, you know, just because I've been with him for longer on this journey and I empathize with him. And so I was really blown away by that journey. By the end to that, it was what I wanted. I felt like, and also, you know, there's a sense of Mustafa taking CJAC to this vault and going, you're looking for who's responsible for this. These are the people responsible, and this is how we change the world. You know, this is how we change it. This is the answer that you were looking for in that violence that you were creating there. In terms of the physical, the logistics of shooting it, you know, of course I was CJAC, and then I had to go and get changed really quickly. And they had a stuntman who was playing CJAC, and I was Elliot, sort of waking up and looking at myself. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was terrific. It was the ending I hoped for my characters.
Joseph took us almost